Hi, and welcome to Lecture 3, Part 104, The Coming of Sound, and eventually we'll get to color and censorship. From the beginning, the intention was for movies to have sound. We already saw that with the guy looking in the kinetoscope with his little earbuds. And we're going to discuss why it took so long, 30 years, for sound to make a breakthrough. Well, let's take a look at this clip first.
The first person to try to synchronize film and sound was Thomas Edison himself.
That's actually W.K. Dixon there playing the violin. So, you can think of all these fancy schmancy reasons why sound took 30 years to come, and some of it was technological, but probably the biggest reason was that only 10% of the world speaks English. And with the silent movies, it's much easier just to swap out some intertitles than to have to use all different actors and actresses and film a movie multiple times. Because keep in mind, a lot of these silent film stars didn't speak English. They were from all over the world. And they didn't have like ADR technology then. So that just wasn't going to happen. So it took a long time. Technologically, of course, microphone technology was just not in place. If you've ever seen Singing in the Rain, once sound did come around, they would have to like plant the microphone in a flower pot or somewhere, and the actors would have to act around the microphone. They didn't have the microphone on a boom pole yet, or of course wireless and lavs and the like. So microphone technology was one reason why. The other reason why is that the cameras themselves made tons of noise. It sounded like a Sherman tank coming down the road. And one of the ways they combated that was first on the right with the icebox. Now, that was really a sarcastic term because keep in mind, there's no air conditioning in the stage. And of course, there's no air conditioning in this box. And cameramen of the time actually had a reputation for being horribly thin, because you could be in there with another cameraman and maybe even a director, and of course because the camera was in this ice box, in the silent era the camera really got freedom and really started moving and crane shots and all kinds of stuff, and now all of a sudden you're in this big box. And, kind of hard to do a smooth dolly shot in something like that middle picture there. And of course, the picture on the left is something that came later called the blimp. That's a heavier one. And actually, Joseph Walker, the DP of the movie It Happened One Night, which we're going to watch in this class, actually invented his own blimp, because he was once sound came, he was ready to leave because he didn't like having the camera back, just immobile, can't move it. And it really frustrated him. So he went ahead and invented his own blimp. And then there was the problem of synchronization. Now, optical sound had been around for a long time. In 1896, Oscar Mester, a German, invented Magstock. Eugene Laust invented his version of optical sound, but his work was limited to the laboratory. And Dr. Lee DeForest invented optical sound, but it wasn't used till much later. The problems with optical sound were that the picture quality suffered. Eventually, like 30 years later, DeForest would win an honorary Oscar for his invention. But the biggest reason that stunted the coming of sound was the size of the movie palaces. Even if they had technology to record sync sound, how is everyone going to hear it? These movie palaces. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Radio City, or in front of us is formerly the Grauman's Chinese Theater. Last I knew it was the Mann Chinese Theater. How is anyone going to hear this stuff? So again, before we go further, let me put in a shameless plug. When you do get here to Florida, if you're not here now, on our West Coast in Tampa is the great Tampa Theater. Almost as it was when it opened in 1926. It was actually the first building to have air conditioning in the Tampa area. And I highly recommend when you get here to take a little field trip out there. It's about an hour and a half drive. They have concerts there. They show old movies on the big screen. Their greatest asset, who passed away 2010, was Rosa Rio, who Dave and I were very fortunate to see. Rosa played the Wurlitzer organ in the silent era, and worked with the likes of Orson Welles and Cole Porter and Mary Martin. Just an amazing woman, and at 106 was still playing the Wurlitzer to Buster Keaton shorts. And it was, again, Lee DeForest, who had experimented in optical sound, that eventually made sound viable for the movie theaters by creating an amplification system. He was actually looking for a way to amplify radio waves, and came up with the 3-element vacuum tube, also known as the Audion. This is still used in guitar amplifiers today, but what it did is it made it possible for the sound that would be recorded to be heard in these large movie palaces. So thank you, Mr. DeForest. And again, DeForest was a bit of an Edison-esque type character in that he did have people working for him, but he held, as you see, 180 patents over that, and really made sound possible for the movies. And this concludes Lecture 3, Part 1 of 4.